Welcome to Unfiltered Counsel and Beyond, where we have real conversations with the people behind the title. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Rishi Sharma, General Counsel and Company Secretary for ASOS.com. Welcome, Rishi.
Thank you, Leslie.
You've spent much of your career sitting at the intersection of law, business and leadership, advising organizations through periods of growth, challenge and transformation. Before we get into that, I'd like to start with a simple question.
Okay.
So tell me, in your current role at ASOS, what inspired you to take this role? Because you're obviously known for your fashion sense and very cool style. I'm interested to know who or what it is that gave you the inspiration for your fashion sense
Oh, for my fashion sense, of course.
and your
I don't
desire
know.
to work at ASOS.
Yeah, so I don't know where my fashion sense comes from. That's probably a question for another time. But ASOS, I've always been interested in fashion. I think it's if I wanted to go really deep, I think there's a psychological thing about forming tribes and identities and how we express ourselves. It's also quite whimsical. So I think as a general counsel, when you go into a business, you don't want to, well, I find it difficult to do something that really affects people's lives on a day-to-day basis. That's a lot of stress. I've done an interim gig in that space. Fashion is something that you can really enjoy in the day, but I find it quite easy to forget about it once work stops. So that's important to me. I love the creativity. I love the energy. I love the buzz that comes from fashion, particularly at ASOS, where we go with trends really quickly. So it's not like your classic fashion business where you have a spring summer collection, then an autumn winter, and it's a twice yearly cycle. We're continually reinventing what we do. So that's one element of ASOS. The other part is the e-commerce business side. So the tech platform, how we serve up things to people, how we personalize. And I think now in particular with the sort of advent of AI, agentic solutions, how the whole tech world's going to change, it's a really exciting time to be there. The other thing that appealed to me about ASOS was I like a challenge. And in the last 3 to 4 years, ASOS has had a few challenges. So turning that business around is something that really gets me interested and excited.
It's every GC's dream to do crisis management and, turning a business around. So well done you. And how's it going?
Yeah, look, we've got or even before I joined, the business had a long-term plan to clear out historic stock levels. We've got a level of debt that we haven't wanted, so we've got plans in place to reduce that down, and that's going well. We've completed one significant disposal this year already. We've got plans for another one, and the big goal for this year is to stop the decline in our sales and start growing again, and we are doing well against that target.
And so you're embedded in the business to help with that business plan.
That's right, yeah. So I actually spent 6 months as SVP of strategy. So this time last year, I was doing a strategy role, setting up all the OKRs for the business, setting up what the key strategic priorities would be. And then I pivoted back and took on the GC role as well.
That's fascinating. How did you end up doing that, a strategy role, and then moving into the general counsel role?
So I joined on an interim basis and really found the business exciting. And as my time there was coming to an end, I spoke to the CEO, said, look, I love the business, but clearly we'll need to find something else for me to do. So that's how I pivoted into the strategy role.
So that's really great, because that goes to demonstrate the versatility of the role of the general counsel, which isn't usually seen outside of like your ability to work as a legal advisor. But you've actually demonstrated something that is actually really unusual, and it's quite inspiring. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And also the advantage you have is when you just said before, oh, we're going to look at ways we can reduce the stock. That's a very business focus approach. So you're combining your expertise and experience with your legal role, which must be such an asset and a benefit to the company.
Yeah, and I think you have to, right? Like, for me anyway, you have to be passionate about where you work and you have to understand that if you really want to be a value-added lawyer, you have to be able to anticipate. So you have to know what the business's plans are, how they work, all the maths that go behind it, and you have to be across all that.
So do you think, in your experience then, that more general counsel should be doing this type of role where we actually move a bit more into strategy and get embedded in the way that you've done?
I think you have to understand the strategy, right? Because you have to
Yes.
understand what the businesses go, where it's pointing, in order to be able to anticipate, rather than be a reactive kind of service to the business.
This is why I really love the role of the general counsel, because the versatility and the potential, of the experience and the knowledge of what general counsel can bring to a company, which
Yeah,
is really to not just be a legal advisor, but to actually genuinely form part of the business and help those business leaders make the right decision to get the right outcomes for the company. And you are one of those business leaders who can actually influence that direction. So I think it's a really exciting time for general counsel generally.
yeah, I agree. I think whether you're a general counsel or any of the other sort of C-suite or executive committee members, or however you want to call that kind of layer, and even I would say for more junior people in the business, you should always be a business person first and subject matter expert second. So that's where I see the value add, right? So you go in, you understand the business, and then you put your legal lens on it, not the other way around.
So, Rishi, you've worked with some exceptionally successful people throughout your career, apart from yourself, of course. What have you observed that most people misunderstand about success?
Oof. That's a great question. I think maybe the way that the question was phrased was around work, but to me, success is not just success at work. I think you have to find success across life. So that's work is a part of life. It's an important part of life. But I think if you just strive for success at work, and I've made this mistake in the past, you can be very successful at work, but essentially not successful at life. And the trick is being successful at life and successful at work.
Yeah, I agree with that actually. People can sometimes become so entrenched in focusing on their career and the business that they forget about life itself.
Yeah.
And life is actually really too short. So, you need to take a step back and look at the big picture holistically. How do you want to live your life as a human being? And, life is to be enjoyed. So, working all the hours and not making time to be kind to yourself, spend time with family and friends. I mean, that is the purpose of life.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
no, I think that's right. And for me, I did my first general counsel role at Purple Bricks, and that was a really challenging 2 years. And when I came to the end of the 2 years, I really questioned whether I wanted to be an employed person at all, let alone a lawyer. So I left and set up my own business in the event space, which was in 2020. And this little thing called COVID came along and scuppered my plans there. But I think what doing that did for me was it said to me, actually, you don't need to be employed. And it kind of lightened the burden for me. And so I really love what I do. I'll come in and I'll do it as best as I can every day. But I know at the back of my mind, I don't need this to be successful in life, which is important.
absolutely. Rishi, so tell us about this side venture. Is it a passion project? Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, so it's I do classic motor shows. Did one on Sunday, which is why I'm browner than normal. Spent 12 hours standing around in 28-degree heat. So it was, I guess it's one of those things. I'm quite entrepreneurial at heart, which is another reason why ASOS is a good fit for me. But I guess you get to a stage where you've had enough of being a lawyer and you just think, I want to try something else. Otherwise, I'm just going to be sat here in 20 years' time telling myself, why did you never do that? So I established an events business. As I said, it was all ready to go in March 2020. That whole year, we couldn't run any shows, do anything. So I I did a whole load of things that year, just selling architectural antiques, trading cars. Um, and it was just fun, just kind of being agile, thinking off my feet. Come 2021, we were ready to go again. And I was thinking COVID's still around. And so I went back into law part-time to keep the wolf from the door. And I realized that I had a new passion for it because it wasn't my sole focus. I wasn't striving too hard to be successful. Yeah, and so since then, the last 5 years or so, I think I've had a new approach to the way I show up at work. I've kept the other thing going as a side hustle. I think everyone should have a side hustle. And I think once you run your own business as well, that's probably, it helps you understand the pressures. I mean, my business is nowhere near the size of ASOS, right? But it understands the pressures a CEO has and the various different hats he has to wear.
You're a man after my own heart, Rishi. I mean, I have also set up a few businesses, and it is really important to believe in yourself and trust in yourself and giving yourself a shot. One of the businesses I set up got hit by COVID, and so I put it on hold, and I haven't actually continued with that. I've gone and done other businesses,
Right.
but it really does give you a different insight into about the pressures of why the CEO and the exco make the decisions that they have under pressure, because they've got to deliver the bottom line. And
Yeah.
so being in that role, which I'm also have much experience doing the same as you, I really understand how the business actually works, which is probably why you've been so successful in your career, and particularly in the current role, which is a blend of everything, which is the legal side as well as the business side. So I think that's a great thing for people
Yeah.
to do. And don't be worried about failing, because the important thing is to learn from what mistakes you made so you don't repeat them the next time around. And then you just get better and better, and you build your confidence.
I think that's right. I think you learn a lot more from failure than success. The other thing I think doing a side hustle does, and maybe I had this before I did maybe it's why I did the side hustle, but teaches you ownership, right? That you see a problem out there, just
And
go and fix it.
accountability.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. Accountability. Yeah. But it's one of the things I've done back, I guess now I've picked up my legal career again. If I see an area that needs attention, I'm just ready to step into it. So one of the areas I own at ASOS now is sustainability, which I'm very open to admitting I'm not a subject matter expert in at all. So I kind of play a more of a leadership role there, pure leadership, and just lead the team. They come to me, they explain it to me, and I almost coach them through it rather than actually. I think as a general counsel, as a trained lawyer, you're seen as the subject matter expert, and part of your skill set is the deep expertise. You then build the leadership skills around that, but those leadership skills you can deploy into other areas which don't have to be about law.
Absolutely. On the topic, the very important topic, as we sit here sweltering in the heat, of ESG, we're very passionate about it as a general counsel community.
Yeah.
And indeed, one of our law firms, Osborne Clarke, has expertise in this field. And we ran a conference last year for a group of general counsel, and we're running a second one. So I must invite you to come along to that,
I'd be
Rishi.
delighted to.
It would be good for you to meet like minds and see what we can do as a community to bring about change in the boardroom, to help companies better understand the impact of climate change and the importance of making changes so we can, protect our planet and our climate, because what is the current status quo isn't really acceptable. So Rishi, thank you for that. So when you walk into a boardroom today, what are you listening for?
Honestly, Leslie, there's probably the first listening area is, right, what's going to fall on my plate here, right? And then I guess there's also the kind of flip side of that, which is, have I done everything I should have done? Am I going to be called out here? So there's always that kind of lawyer CYA mentality going on, if I'm honest. But then I guess it's, what are the discussions? Probably more with my COSEC hat on. Is the board having the right discussions? Has it got the right papers? Are the objectives for each session clear? And are the conversations staying on track? Because as you'll know, any board will have certain voices that are louder and maybe have agendas. So is there a balanced, full and thorough discussion going on, I guess, is one thing that you continually want to monitor. But then I suppose the other piece you're looking out for is, okay, where's the board? What's the board thinking about here? Like, as in, what's coming down the pipeline, and what do I need to do to prepare a solid base for the company to operate in that space? So we're not in 9 months going scrabbling for legal support or not having the right corporate structure to support the business's growth or acquisitions or whatever the plans are.
That's exactly what you said earlier about the consistent approach of the general counsel and the legal function taking a strategic approach towards anticipating
Yeah,
what can come down the line so that you can prepare your business to make sure that they're aware of it and you've done some preparation to make sure that you're not largely impacted in a negative way. So that is like increasingly important for general counsel to think outside the box. And in order to do that, they actually need to be more geopolitically aware of what is going on in the world.
yeah,
And the
absolutely.
legislation that's changing at the moment, like Employment Rights Act, etc. So it's becoming an increasingly challenging role, the general counsel role, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. But that's what, for me, keeps it interesting. I think I like the fact that it changes, and we've got some huge changes coming in with AI and the way that's going to affect not only businesses but the way legal teams work.
So, Rishi, here's another question for you. What have you learnt about judgment that you couldn't possibly have learnt in private practice?
I think in private practice, you're always told to be commercial, but until you actually go and work in a business, you don't know what that means. And with all due respect to people in private practice, because in working in house, you're constantly got that kind of dynamic or that balance to play between here's what the business wants to achieve, here's the most legally robust position, where is the appropriate trade-off between getting the deal done, achieving the commercial objectives, and making sure that we're covered legally, right? So any commercial advantage, if you negotiate it properly, will have a price. So what's the risk price benefit? What are the actual red lines, and what are the no-go areas, and how willing are you to test those? And I think that's certainly on the legal side the key judgment skill that you have to employ.
So, would you say, and I'm a big fan of this, private practice lawyers, everyone should, if possible, have time on secondment and with a client to get that experience of working with your clients to better understand their mentality and what
Yeah,
is important to them.
I think, I was trying to not just be contrary, but I was trying to think, are there any areas where that wouldn't be the case? I can't think of any off the top of my head. I mean, there are some legal roles like in private practice where actually being very black letter, maybe tax, I'm not sure, but where you just want clear legal advice on something, and actually you don't need to be tied into the commercialities of it, or you just need to say, this is a black and white answer, here you go. But generally, if you want to advise a business, you need to understand how a business works. So one really good way of doing that is working in a business.
Yes, I agree. So, Rishi, have you found leadership becoming easier or harder as your career has progressed?
I found it easier. I think there's two reasons for that. One is, I think when you get really experienced like me, you kind of you've seen quite a lot, and you stop worrying about the small things. You can focus on the bigger picture. I was reading something this morning actually, and I think it's true. The other thing that's really changed for me is becoming a father and spending time with my children and watching them grow and take passion and feel personal growth from that interaction and the empathy you learn to have. I think in private practice, and again, this might be not only about private practice, but about the fact that I was younger at that time, and you're just very kind of driven and very kind of here's the answer, and you don't really care how it lands. Whereas as you develop as a leader, as you develop empathy, you realize actually everything I'm doing here is about people. because I can give you the best answer in the world. But if you don't understand why I'm saying this and I don't understand how it will land with you, then it doesn't matter. So it's quite a waffly answer, but I definitely found leadership not only easier, but more interesting as well as I've got older. Yeah.
Rishi, what's a decision you've made that taught you the most about yourself?
I think it was probably when I walked away from being a lawyer. I think historically I probably put too much pressure on myself. And if I'm honest, probably enjoyed the status too much. So to walk away from it all taught me a lot about myself.
It's a big call to do something like that.
Yeah.
It's very brave to do that, but it actually has worked out really well for you.
Yeah, I'm happy where I am. Yeah.
So, Rishi, you've spent years around senior leadership teams. What's the one thing you've learned about people that has genuinely surprised you?
I think, well, it's probably not about people, but what I found, having been on a number of leadership teams, the ones where there's the most apparent harmony are probably not testing each other enough and are actually probably in the longer run the least successful. I was on a leadership team once where we did Myers-Briggs, all of us, and we all had completely different profiles. And that team was probably the most harmonious team. And we all flexed our styles, and no one could come in and just not be empathetic to each other. And everyone brought something different to the table. Whereas teams where there are too many people who are too similar, I think is not successful in the long run. And that surprises me because you think actually you've got more alignment, but I think you then don't cover off each other's blind spots as well.
I think that's absolutely right. Having diversity of thought
Yeah.
in the team from people from different perspectives and backgrounds that can bring something to the table that you just may never have encountered. So, in fact, that's why it is so important to have diverse
Yeah,
teams.
absolutely.
So, Myers-Briggs, yes, I know all about that. My colours are red and blue, unsurprisingly. What are your colours?
This is going to be really embarrassing. So when I do colours, my blue is, I think it's like 10%. It's appalling. I've basically got no attention to detail, which is interesting. And I suppose, like, I was successful in private practice, but it took a lot out of me. And you kind of get that. The other three are all the same, 50%. So I'm basically nothing on the other three, but really bad at detail.
I don't believe that to be the case.
That's what colours will tell you. Yeah.
It's a fun exercise to actually do. And also, I think that what it does, it helps you identify where you can make changes to strengthen the areas where you're really good and make some changes to yourself and your approach to improve those potential weaknesses.
Yeah, and I think doing them tells you a lot about yourself. So when I was studying for exams, for example, I used to have quite a lot of quite a well scheduled study program. So if I knew I had to do 30 minutes and then I was going to get a 10-minute break, I would do it. But if you just said, look, here's a load of work, it would just kind of overwhelm me and I'd never get through it. So it explains a lot of the ways I work. I always book a meeting room if I need to do an intense contract review because I know I'll get distracted by the first person who walks past my desk and want to have a chat because I always lean into yellow. So I think the name for the place on the wheel that I come out is Inspiring Motivator. And that probably speaks to the fact that I want to engage with people more than I do words on a page.
Yeah, I do find you very
Oh,
inspirational,
thank you.
Rishi. I'm also a people person. I love people. I love talking to people. Communication is really critical. Better understanding where they come from, and if you do that, then you will make time for people and make them feel included.
Yeah.
So they feel part of the team and are more willing to engage and share their expertise and time and the loyalty and commitment. So it is really important to have those skills as a leader to be a really genuinely, open communicator to lead a team successfully.
Yeah, I agree. Like authenticity, transparency, there's a whole number of words for it, but openness is key.
So on that note, what quality do you admire most in other people?
Gosh, as colleagues or as people in general?
However you would like to express yourself.
It's a funny one, right? Because I think I look at certain of my colleagues and I just think I really admire your relentless commitment to this business. But then I guess, going back to what we were talking about earlier, I think there's a watch out for that person, and I'm also a bit worried about their relentless commitment to the business. I think honesty for me is probably the quality I admire most. And it's hard to say you admire it because it's probably the opposite, that I don't really like people who are dishonest. Like honesty, I think, should be a given.
No, I completely agree. As one lawyer to the next lawyer.
Yeah.
So let's talk about private practice.
Okay.
So turning to our esteemed private practice colleagues, would you mind sharing with us some of the best law firms or lawyers that you've ever worked with? Because we want to celebrate their contribution and their success in supporting the general counsel community. And, I'm interested to know, and I'm sure our audience are interested to know, what made them exceptional for you as a client. And it doesn't have to be currently in your existing role, but it might be in the past. So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think I'd rather not mention anyone by name, but a few of the kind of traits that I've seen from external counsel, probably going back to what we were talking about earlier again. So empathy from external counsel is really important. So to understand the GC's position, why you're coming to them, and then I guess to understand the business. So to have made the time to understand the business, where it's headed, what its drivers are, what its risk appetite is, so that by the time something lands, you're not kind of trying to learn that on the hop, because you won't. Some of that comes through relationships, some of that comes through working with a business for a long time. But I guess the other thing you want to see as a lawyer in-house is that your external lawyers share your passion for what the business is, right? So good lawyers that I'll work with, I said I wouldn't name anyone, but Andrew Jolly at Slaughter and May, for example, he's always sending me kind of nuggets or snippets that he's seen in the press, or and showing that he's kind of reading around what our business is doing. And that's really helpful because I know that he's invested in what we're doing. And then this one, private practice lawyers probably won't like so much, but the other thing from a GC perspective that's really important is for external counsel to understand that they're a cost, not a profit center for a business. So every time I have to engage external counsel, I've got my CFO on my back saying, why are you doing this? Why are you not doing it yourself? You've got a team. You have to explain again, this is kind of an exceptional project we're doing, or this is the reason why we can't do it in-house because we haven't done it before, or they explain the reason. And then we have to go for budget for it, and we need to get that approved. So keep the cost, firstly, as low as possible, obviously, but make sure there's no further surprises, because every time there's a change in that, I have to go and get beaten up again by the CFO. So I guess that goes back to transparency or openness that we were discussing earlier.
That's so interesting to hear your thoughts on that, Rishi. In my experience as an in-house lawyer throughout my career, I've only had one partner who's done exactly the same as Andrew from Slaughter and May. And the partner I dealt with was when I was at Lloyd's Bank running the property book. There was one partner from BCLP called Sam Narula, and he would always update me by email and send press clippings and information just because they were a snapshot of what's going on in the market in case I didn't have time to look at it myself, which I wouldn't have. And so I found that incredibly helpful to give me the snapshot information just before I go into a meeting with my business. So I'm on top of it and I can engage in a conversation with them because they're probably more onto it, given that they take the commercial side of things. But it actually just empowers you and gives you more confidence as a GC to go into that meeting knowing that you're already speaking the same language. So I think the lessons from those two partners is something that other partners in private practice should engage with in supporting the general counsel community.
Yeah, and I think like the other thing about being a GC is it can be quite a lonely role because you are slightly different from everyone else on the exco. You are slightly in service of the board rather than an equal member. And I know this is something that the Eagles and the Eagle allies are trying to provide a forum for, but having a trusted partner as a confidant, I will text Andrew, he probably won't like me saying this, but or call him pretty much any time, just say, look, I'm pretty sure this is right. What do you think? Because you don't have another sounding board. You don't have someone else who can put that same lens on it.
Yeah, I think that's really important. It's about having someone you trust
Yeah.
who's really experienced and very commercial. And the point you made earlier about understanding your business,
Yeah.
we're not a commodity. We're actually a living, breathing organization with goals and a product to sell. And so, external counsel who want to support us in our roles should take the journey with us. And it's that point about like if you're really invested in supporting us as external counsel, then surely you should really understand my business. And it's those little nuggets where the private practice partner can say, oh, look, this happened in your industry. This new company's coming in competition with you. Are you aware? Do you want to raise it with your colleagues, and what steps are you guys going to take to, to protect your position? These things really are so helpful to us because in a role as a general counsel, it is so incredibly busy because every day you go to work, you do not know what's going to happen and what's going to land on your table.
Yeah, which is the great thing, but also the really annoying thing about the role. Yeah.
So, Rishi, looking forward, what is something happening in the business right now that you think people aren't paying enough attention to?
So it's a weird one, but it's probably something people are paying a lot of attention to, but I don't think you can pay enough attention to it, and it's AI. Yeah.
I knew you were going to say
So,
that.
I guess particularly in retail, we're doing a lot to optimize the business, right? As I'm sure most businesses are. How do we automate processes? How do we make things faster? I mean, there's that age-old question of are we going to end up doing more with the same, or the same but with less? As in, is it going to be a zero-sum game, or is it something different? But then I guess there's a bigger sort of more strategic, more existential question as to how, if at all, well, definitely it will in some way, but how is the world going to look in 3 years' time? How are people going to shop? We trade solely through an e-commerce platform. Is that still going to be relevant at all in 3 years? And I don't think we've quite answered that. I don't think anyone has. So yeah, that's one area that I kind of lie awake at night thinking about.
It's a really interesting question, isn't it? That will actually impact on not just your business, but so many other businesses about, what are they going to do to adapt and make change? And you just don't know what's coming around the corner.
No, so I don't know. We were talking earlier before we started rolling about, in fact, you can pick up your phone now and say, I need lettuce, cucumber, tomatoes. That goes somewhere into your AI assistant. How does that agent then choose to do that? Now for ASOS, it's about, you're walking down the street, you see someone wearing a nice black dress, take a photo of it, scan it, your agent finds a dress for you. We invest so much at the moment into the customer experience and personalization and how we present things. Is that all going to be bypassed by AI?
So, Rishi, apart from the fact that this is keeping you up at night, what other things occupies your mind when you're not working? So when you're relaxed?
So what do I do in my spare time?
Yes. Apart from looking at classic cars.
Yeah, mostly looking at cars that I want to buy but can't, and just dreaming about those sorts of things. but my kids take up most of my time. So normally now they're at an age where it's about running errands for them. I love music. I love just being outdoors. Like that's my
What
happy
kind of
space.
music do you like?
Oh, anything, soul, Motown, rock. I've got tickets for Metallica in 10 days' time, which I don't even know if I like them, but it'll be an amazing experience, like 2 nights in a row. Yeah,
Sounds exhausting.
yeah, I know.
But I love the fact that you're so open-minded about trying different things to learn, just to have these different experiences, because you never know that you might find you like it and
Yeah,
find a new passion. And that's really important to keep doing that all the time.
yeah, I think so.
So, Rishi, what's something you're better at today than you were 10 years ago?
Listening. I think 10 years ago, I think I was a lot more. What the word is? I think it goes back to the conversation we had earlier about developing empathy through bringing up children, and that for me was a life changer. Not just through my relationship with the children, but how it changed me as a person.
Mm.
And I think you realize you don't always have to be the main character in life, not even in your own life, which is fine. And I think that lends itself nicely to the general counsel role as well, right? As you transition from private practice into leadership, you realize leadership's not necessarily about playing the leading role necessarily all the time, but it's about facilitating the success of others, which is what I really am passionate about with my team.
I love the fact that you've picked up on the skill of listening. It is actually a skill, and it's something I had to learn to do as well.
Yeah.
Because I have an answer for everything. But then I had to take a step back and make sure that in order to be a good leader, you have to allow everyone else to have their voice heard. You don't have to agree with everything they say, but you should let them have their voice so they feel heard and therefore included and therefore part of the team. And sometimes you just might find, wow, that's a great idea. I never thought of that. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Let's put that on the table. That's how you continue to evolve and grow as a leader. And actually, it is not an easy skill. And I call it as a skill because you have to actually physically think to yourself, do not speak, let the other person speak.
Yeah, especially I think as a general counsel, the inclination is to be a provider of solutions, and to just jump in and say I can fix this is kind of your first instinct, but to just let it play out and just sit there and absorb, it's important.
But isn't it also great as the General Counsel to create that platform to allow the more junior members, not even junior, but even the senior lawyers in your team, come up with a solution themselves?
Yeah.
And then even though you know the answer, sometimes it's better just to let them work it out themselves so they make that journey, which actually helps them have confidence in what they've done because they've come out with the right outcome for the organization. And then, you give them due credit for it. And then they feel elated and happy because we want our employees to be happy employees.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so to enjoy and want to come to work because they know that they have a place where they can actually be involved and collaborate and share their ideas and be excited to come to work. So it sounds like you've actually created that environment. I must pop in.
I hope so. Yeah, it is what I try to do. Yeah.
So can I pop in?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I'll pick a few dresses. So, Rishi, at the end of a long career, what do you hope people who have worked with you would say about you?
Oh gosh. I'd like to think that I inspire people, which sounds pretty grandiose. And I don't mean it in a kind of, oh, I wish I was like him kind of way, but inspire them to be their best self. Maybe inspire is the wrong word, but empower people.
No, I like the word inspire.
Okay.
I agree with you because that's exactly what I think.
Yeah.
I want to inspire people not to be grandiose because I want them to feel I can do it too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna have a go. I would never do it normally, but I'm gonna have a go and see if I can do it, and then help people find and realize their true potential. And I
exactly.
think as someone in a senior leadership position, I think we have a duty to do that, to help explore the potential of people in our team, to help them be the best that they can be, so that they can see you as a leader of someone who they want to be like, to actually have achieved the same success that you have. And success, I mean, not just like becoming the general counsel, but successful in life, and realizing that looking at your other aspects of the way you live, that they can actually have the same joy that you experience.
Yeah, and it's sometimes this might be one to edit out, but sometimes I, or not, we'll leave this in. I do approach it in a kind of unusual way. So one of the things I believe in, Leslie, is that anyone in your team should be there for the right reasons. So I have in the past been known to send people in my team vacant jobs that I've seen advertised and just say to them, look, this looks like a great fit for you. What do we need to be doing here to make this, what you're doing here today, as good as that? Or is there anything in this that we can bring into your role here? And just continually test that, because that does two things, I think. Hopefully it encourages people in my team to be honest and open with me about what they want, and it helps them think about that. And then kind of more selfishly, it gives me quite a good heads up. If someone's leaving, I'd rather be part of that next stage of their career, even if it's not in my team.
That's actually a really great approach and really good advice for general counsel to help explore the potential of the people in your team, because our job is not to block them, but to help them, support them, guide
Yeah,
them, and explore with them potential opportunities. It could be somewhere else, but it doesn't matter, as long as we've done the right thing by them
absolutely.
and given the support and the grounding to do something different and continue to grow. Then I think you've done a great job.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah,
that,
I
that's
think that's right.
exactly yeah. So if you don't mind, we're going to move to some quick fire questions. But
Okay.
first, I'd like to know, do you have a classic car?
I don't at the moment, no. I've got an electric car. It's really nice, but I do feel a bit of shame every time. On the plus side, at least it's really good for the environment.
Exactly. As long
Although,
as you can find a place you can park your car and charge it, right?
yeah. Although I would say classic cars are good for the environment. So someone pointed out to me, I used to have a 1969 Mustang Fastback, and he said the good thing about that car is, even though it has a fairly inefficient V8 in it, it's made out of steel and wood, and it's been around for 70 odd years. So it's kind of done its bit for the environment.
So we should all be getting classic cars.
Yeah, and you don't have to MOT them, you don't have to pay road tax. It's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yes, I think we should all start thinking about going to Rishi and getting a classic car. So some quick fire questions. Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Reading a book or going to the theatre?
Do I have to choose one? I listen to audiobooks. I'm not a theatre person, but the last thing I want to do is look at a book when I get home.
Classical music or hip hop?
Hip hop.
Roses or white lilies?
Roses are chocolates, aren't they? So I'll go with those.
Okay, here's a funny one. Baked beans or mince on toast?
Baked beans.
Lamborghini or a Mini Cooper?
Ooh, Lamborghini. Only because you could then sell that and get a load of Mini Coopers, right?
Always thinking with an entrepreneurial mind. So a beach holiday or a hiking trip?
Hiking.
Puppy or a kitten?
Puppy.
So, Rishi, thank you so much.
Thank you, Leslie.
It's been an absolute joy and a lot of fun having you
Yeah, it's been great.
with us today. And I'm looking forward to coming to ASOS to have a look at the dresses.
You absolutely should. Love
Thank
to
you
have
so much.
Thank you.